Senator Cornyn.
Thank you for being here. I think we all agree that Africa is an important place and that we are not doing everything that we should do or might do in order to influence the direction of that continent. I do take exception to some of my colleagues' statements about the previous, let's say, the status quo ante, with a lot of money being spent in disjointed, wasteful, and unfocused ways by the federal government. And obviously changing that is disruptive, and there's a lot of programs that I think, particularly PEPFAR, which have been particularly important in Africa in terms of our soft power and saving lives. And so I continue, obviously, to support that. But it seems to me we lack a coherent strategy. And I'm not sure that, I know the administration is working on some targeted projects, for example, the DRC on the critical minerals front and others. But my visit to Kenya, Angola, and the DRC last August, I was struck just by not only the magnitude of the challenge, but how we seem to lack any particular strategy to deal with making it any different than it is now. So maybe both of you, take it in turn, please. What would be a successful regional strategy in East Africa look like for the United States? That doesn't necessarily have to all emanate from the White House. Congress can begin that conversation. What would that look like?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I think it's important first to ensure that any regional strategy is integrated into a broader continental strategy and then global strategy. But as far as the region specifically, the U.S. needs to determine exactly what its interests are, what its goals are, and how it can get there. That all seems obvious.
That seems pretty fundamental.
Yeah, but
I mean, one of the things where our goal would be to stop the Russians and the Chinese from essentially preempting us and pushing us out in terms of our influence. But go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. So I referenced the potential Russian base really in Port Sudan. That would be massively problematic. We already have the Chinese base in Djibouti, as we've discussed. So I think, again, I'm a big believer in commercial engagement. I think the U.S. government and the U.S. Congress can help streamline the work of organizations like the DFC and Exim Bank, make them more fit for purpose. They're too slow, they're too bureaucratic. And then make that really this commercial engagement the centerpiece of the value proposition that the United States brings to these countries. I also think it should determine which countries it can actually achieve things with. There are just some some governments on the continent that are so hostile and so, frankly, inept that it's very hard to determine how the U.S. could ever actually achieve much of anything with them. So I would, some specific areas you could talk about critical minerals. EAC does have such things. I know that critical minerals is already a cliche to talk about, but it is a reality for the United States and Africa.
It's not just a cliche, right?
Yeah, it's a real thing. There's a reason everybody talks about it. So Africa will have to be part of the solution for the United States. The U.S. needs to figure out how to support its companies. It should work with the companies of allied countries, because we have very few mining companies anymore in this country. So, but the Australians, the Canadians, they have huge mining companies and look for possibilities there. They should also work closely with other allied countries on financing arrangements and take a much more systematic and harmonized approach with allies to these regions to focus on the core interests of the United States, which again would be security and then some of these economic issues.
Ambassador?
Thank you. I think, particularly for the Horn, it is really important to integrate what we're trying to accomplish in Africa with a strategy that looks at the other side of the Red Sea. So this is broadly what we need to do is stop treating Africa like an extra credit project in foreign policy and make it part of the core curriculum and integrate it into the way we think about achieving U.S. interests globally. And I think that, more engagement, as Senator Coons said, a focus on peace and conflict prevention, because the conflicts in Africa provide opportunities, particularly to Russia and to various criminal networks, terrorist and otherwise, that this is not in our interest. Commercial deals, yes, but making sure that deals don't just benefit a set of elites at the top, but are deals that we can talk about benefiting both sides of the Atlantic in a way that addresses some of these job creation issues.
I see my time is up.